the desk won't go up and down so that it's child lock. Oh, good. That's an out of context piece of information.
You
I've got
heard it,
something else to.
guys. She is locking her children up.
No,
You,
that's not what. Jesus. The
Talking about the
desk,
key for the lock
the
for the children.
the automatic up and down desk, so that
Locking her kids
I
up.
kittens don't
God, I
get
would laugh so hard if
squished.
that child lock failed and the desk just thunk.
On its side. I'm just
Yeah.
like the rest of the recording. I'm like this. Okay. Anyway, welcome everyone to We're Not Helpful, a podcast about books, our thoughts, recommendations, and opinions. I'm Eloise, and joining me as always is Brayton and Julian. Hello.
Hey,
Hi.
You're
we are
so
com
excited.
I know we are coming at you from the past, in the distant past
Ooh,
of
yes.
2024.
Join us now in the future, where we're speaking to you from the past. We're always speaking to them from the past, though, when you really think
Technically,
about
the
it.
gap is going to be a lot bigger this time.
It is. So, for full disclosure, we are recording on the 29th of December, but you, dear listeners, are listening to us in the future of 2025. How is it? Do we have flying cars yet? Let us know.
If they're not listening to us, then something's gone horribly wrong.
Oh, they all unsubscribed.
Yep, that was it.
All right. How are we? Have we had a good holiday period?
Yeah, been all right so far.
Julian, how was your Christmas? Let us know all about your Christmas cheer that you've enjoyed.
Oh, it's just been spectacular. Every day has been better than the last.
He's lying, listeners.
Hmm.
I'm lying a lot.
You've already taken down your decorations, haven't you?
I
I don't think
haven't
he put them
yet.
up.
We took down the Christmas tree, but we can't take down the lights yet because we promised Mickey, my daughter, a fire pit under the lights, and we haven't got around to
Oh,
it yet.
Oh.
And it's been too
Well,
hot to get up on the ladder and take them down.
do you really want to have a fire in this weather? Because let me tell you, people, this weather is balls.
literally
It
balls just raining from the sky. Something has gone horribly wrong.
I cannot tell you how awful it is to go from a temperature so cold that your face is so numb that you can't talk properly because your lips have gone numb, to then 24 hours later coming back to Australia and just wanting to sit in a pool. Yes, so for listeners who have been following along, I had a short sojourn to New York City, which was quite exciting. I've never been to America before, so yes, New York was lovely and wonderful, and there was lots of adventures and hijinks, and I tried very hard to not buy all the books from the Strand bookstore because I knew how much my luggage would weigh if I did that. So I was very good and I only bought one book. Um, and yes, but it was very cold, although not as cold as it could have been because 2 days after me and my best friend left, it snowed. And she was very disappointed. I must admit, I was a little disappointed, but also kind of relieved because I was not prepared for snow, and I'm glad it didn't snow while we were there.
Has she
Um,
ever seen snow before?
oh, she has, but
Oh, okay.
like it was the idea of New York in the
Yeah.
snow.
At
And
Christmas.
annoyingly, at Christmas, my brother was actually there. We planned it very well that he would turn up 2 days after I left. He went traveling with his girlfriend, and they were there for the snow, and they sent videos of the snow in Central Park. So yes,
Ah,
my best friend was very jealous about that. He was very cold though, because he was not prepared for snow either. Apparently, it was the first white Christmas New York has had in 15 years. So fantastic for them, I
go
suppose.
go them.
Yes. But enough about my New York trip. Gentlemen, how are we in the world of books this week? Have you been reading anything in particular that you would like to share?
Oh, I have started reading The Black Dahlia by James Elroy.
Oh, inspired by the fact that the last podcast on the left has started doing the series of the Black Dahlia?
More luck than anything. Came across it in a secondhand bookstore. I started watching the movie many years ago, and it's not a great film. Um,
I've heard
which,
that.
if you've seen it, you know why. It's and plus the ending of the film itself is like, how are these your killers when we don't even really know why they're doing it. But anyway,
Oh, do they solve it
they
in the
solve it
film?
in yeah. So if you've never seen it, the film and the book itself are not true. It's a
Ah,
fictional story with the murder of Elizabeth Short being central to the plot. So
I see.
everything else, the detectives, the suspects, all of that, even the killers at the end, or supposed killers at the end, it's all fiction. It's all a work of
Okay.
fiction. But it's a great film noir style. It's very hard-boiled or detective caper. It's very well written, very easy to read as well. And I'm hoping that the book makes a little bit more sense than the movie, which kind of stopped making sense around the halfway point. But we'll see how it
Okay.
goes.
And have you read much of the book yet so far?
I've read probably the first 30 or 40 pages of it.
I remember my only memory of that movie is when it first came out, and there was an interview with the writer
Mm.
and the director or something, and they were asking him about were there any changes to the book to the movie that you agree with, disagree with, whatever. And he said my book, I'm paraphrasing, but he essentially said my book is my book, their movie is their movie, and they're separate. And I remember
Yes.
thinking at the time, oh, that's a really generous way of doing it, letting them do whatever they need to do to translate the book to film. But then just after listening to that, maybe that was his underhanded way of saying the movie's crap, read my book instead.
Yeah, I think so. There was a treatment for the film that, and I believe a rough draft of a rough edit of the film that came in at about 3 or so hours that was much closer to the book.
Mm.
And then, of course, things went the way they did, and the studio, I guess, got their thing. A lot of the actors don't really talk much about it. I don't think Josh Hartnett's overly proud of the film. I don't think I've ever heard Aaron Eckhart talk about it in fond memories either, or Scarlett Johansson, or even Hilary Swank. So,
I didn't know any of these people were in that film.
I
well,
just
now you
knew
do.
Josh Hartnett was in it.
Mm.
Is
That
this
was
the
it.
one that's directed by David Lynch?
No, it was supposed to be, I understand, but it wasn't
Okay.
in the end, and maybe that was part of the problem. He directed Mulholland Drive, which is another James
Oh,
Ellroy novel.
yes, which kind of has the same tones, like taken from
Yeah,
that murder mystery, but
and
it's not like a direct
some of
thing.
the same characters appear in both as well.
Okay, I have seen Mulholland Drive. I have no recollection about what that film is actually about, other than I know I've seen it, which is terrible.
Murder once again,
Murder! I've seen a lot of murder films.
you're never quite sure what's real and what's within the main actress's head.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
And Billy Ray Cyrus is in it.
Excellent.
Yeah,
That's random.
no mullet though. Sad.
Oh.
What's the point?
Mm. It was very infamous at the time for its lesbian sex scene.
Oh,
Hmm.
of course. Okay.
Mm.
Nothing, not that there's anything wrong with that. I think we need more queer media, but I think sometimes when it's through the lens of a straight man, it can be a little bit male gazy.
I
Not
think the problem
great.
was like the scene itself is fine, and by today's standards, you wouldn't even really bat an eye at it. But I think that because it was a selling point of the film
Mm,
at the time, kind of made it a little bit gratuitous, I suppose.
yep,
Hmm.
fair. Brayton, you said you wanted to
Yes.
discuss a book that you have been
Oh,
reading or have
yes. Well, not
discovered.
not so much reading. I found this because I also have been away in Tasmania. Spent a week down there at the start of the school holidays. It was lovely. But in a bookshop down there, I found this book. It's called The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows.
Ooh,
I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
no, but it's a
Sounds
pretty
uplifting.
cover.
It's very pretty. It is essentially, um, well, I'm just going to read it off the back of the book because otherwise I'll just butcher it. The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows defines new words for emotions that we all feel but don't have the language to express.
Hmm, I
So it
like that.
started. It started online by John Koenig, and it started just as a almost like a blog page, as a little art project for him, where he attempted to define words or define emotions that we didn't have words for. And I saw this in a bookshop maybe a year or two ago actually, and I knew the website. I'd perused the website for a while and I thought, oh, they got a book, great. But at the time I couldn't really afford it and I kind of let it go. And then I went back to that bookshop several weeks later and it was gone. And I'd always regretted it. It's one of those things where it's like, damn, I should have got it when I had the chance. But then I saw it in this bookshop in Tasmania. I'm like, I'm getting it. Don't care how much it is, I'm just getting it. And it's very nice. So I thought just maybe we can do this in episodes or whatever, but I just thought just for today, let's read a couple, get us in the mood for the new year.
Ooh,
Let's
nice.
define some words. So I thought just to start with, let's have one of you can both have a turn, give me a page number between 1 and 243, and we'll see what words come up.
69.
172. Of course you would.
All right, we'll do
Nice.
ladies first. Eloise, what did you say? Sorry?
172, because
100,
I'm not a child.
I never professed to be anything
172.
else.
Page
I wouldn't want
100.
you any other way. Wait, hang on, no.
You can have me any way you want.
No, stop. Okay.
If it's all right with you, page 172 is a picture.
Oh, okay.
Well done.
Classic
I will show
Eloise.
I will show you the picture.
I can't really see it.
That way.
Oh,
Where's my
okay.
camera?
Oh, that's beautiful.
I will just turn the next page because each section is kind of divided into sections that cover like a certain theme. So this section is called Klexos, which is the art of dwelling on the past.
Right. Can you
So,
describe what the picture is actually for our listeners
oh
rather
yes, I
than our
should.
YouTube viewers?
Sorry, everyone out there. It is a picture. It's actually a collage by Richard Verges, and it is a man hugging what looks like a shape, the top half of a woman, but then it's all in black ink, and at the bottom, as her shape kind of dissolves into just ink splots as it's kind of like running down the page.
It's very evocative of like emotional, like sadness or
Mm.
grief.
It's actually a really nice photo you landed on, Eloise. Well done.
Thank you.
But I will turn to the first entry in this section, if that's all right with you.
Right. Oh, hang on. I just realized my cat is trapped in the study with me.
Oh no.
It's unprofessional.
I know.
Sorry, she must have been hiding in the window. She just wandered out and was like, meow. Sorry.
All
Go
right.
on.
The first word here, I want to see if you can guess what this word means. This word is anchorage, which is actually a word, but in this context, what is the definition?
Province of Canada?
Yes, that's it. Perfect.
My thought of anchorage would be like anchoring, like staying in one spot.
Yeah, very, very close actually.
Hmm.
Um, Anchorage, noun, the desire to hold on to time as it passes, like trying to keep your grip on a rock in the middle of a river, feeling the weight of the current against your chest while your elders float on downstream, calling over the roar of the rapids, just let go, it's okay, let go.
Oh, my chest hurts.
So some of these definitions are very happy, some of them are very bittersweet, and some of them are just depressing.
Wow.
So this is all random, and Julian, you're sticking with 69?
I'm sticking with 69.
All right, here we
I
go.
would love it if there was a picture of just two people.
Unfortunately, 69 landed on part of the foreword on one section, which is anoscetia, the anxiety of not knowing the real you.
Oh, that's
Mm.
So I'm going to turn to the first
scarily
entry.
fitting.
Yep. This is the first entry in this section. Descente. I'm probably mispronouncing that. They actually have pronunciation here. I'm still probably mispronouncing it. Descente. A riff on the French toast santé, literally unhealth, pronounced descente. I apologize for butchering that. Any guesses on what the meaning is?
Um, so what's the section again of like not knowing oneself?
Yes.
So that would give us a clue as to what the word might be associated with, perhaps.
Ooh.
Yeah, this isn't a game or anything. I'm just asking.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm just trying to be smart to figure it out. Um, if I would hazard a guess, let's say something to do with
The clue there, it literally means unhealth.
okay, so perhaps feeling of your vitality slipping away.
Oh yeah, you're on the right track. Ju-
Julian.
Julian, any thoughts? You just want me to tell you?
A smart man knows when to let the person with the definitions do the work.
There we go.
That's fun.
All right. It is the brooding delirium of being sick, which makes time slow to a trickle and turns even the most pathetic of tasks into monumental struggles, until the act of lifting your head from the pillow feels like you're trying to climb a mountain, wondering if you'll ever find your way back again or even catch your breath.
That is literally how I feel every time I have a throat infection because
Yeah,
my throat infections, people, let me tell you, they're horrific when I get them. Yes, and it is literally that I am never going to feel well ever again. I don't know, I cannot recall the feeling of the sun on my face nor the feeling of the wind. Yeah, that's really accurate. I'm going to use that the next time I'm sick. Knock on
yeah.
wood, it's not anytime soon because I've
Fingers
actually had a
crossed.
I've had a bout of good health for a while. I
You
went all the way to New York and back without getting sick,
you
people. That
just
was,
jinxed it.
I know, it was a monumental feat. Yeah, I've probably gone and jinxed myself now.
You probably have. Let's do one more. Want to do one more?
Yep,
I'm just gonna
sure.
pick. I'm just gonna pick a random one because you could just like this isn't a book you kind of sit down and read from beginning to end. It's one, at least for me, you kind of pick up, read through a few entries, and just kind of see where it takes you. Uh, let's see. Uh, Here's one, especially for those of us getting older, which is all three of us.
Shh, we're
Oh,
all
God.
very young and
You're not
vital.
even 40 yet, man.
Yeah, I'm not yet. You 40, Eloise?
Yes, you know very well I am.
No, I literally just forgot if you were like, I knew you were late 30s at least.
Yes, I
Well, take
turned
it as a
40
compliment.
early.
I thought you were still in your 30s.
Thank you. I did turn 40 earlier this year, yes.
Okay. Okay. This is syphilis.
Mm.
Syphilis?
Not syphilis. Syphilis. Sypheless. It's an adjective.
Hmm. The feeling of snakes beneath your skin.
Got it in one.
No,
No.
no.
Um,
Sith. Something to do with the dark side of the Force?
Ooh.
this section is I cannot pronounce this word. Nosir. Oh my gosh. Let me look up the
Not
definition.
sure. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's a
Nosir.
new
Oh
one on
my
me too.
gosh. Yep. Um, Nos
Nosferatu?
Nosanine, I think it is. The awareness that someone you've known for years still has a private and mysterious inner life. This is the section. This is the overarching theme.
Trying to think, do I know anyone who might still have a private and inner life?
I think most people we know have a private inner life that we don't know of.
Oh, but
Absolutely.
does it involve like after dark vigilantism or something? Because
I
that would be
wish.
cool.
I don't know anyone wealthy enough to support that sort of lifestyle.
That's
Mm.
that's true.
Never said they were a good vigilante.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a couple of friends,
Mm.
Greg and Dan from the Smart Enough to Know Better podcast, who interviewed, what was his name? He was like
Batman?
Brisbane's vigilante
Captain
superhero,
Australia?
Captain Australia. They met Captain
Oh,
Australia
that's
and
awesome.
they interviewed him on their podcast many years ago now. That guy was a bit strange, apparently.
Did he walk
Um,
across Australia recently?
Oh, I don't know if
Oh,
that's the same person. He was
no, it is the same.
definitely.
It is the
Oh,
same
it
person.
is.
He
Oh,
walked
okay.
from Brisbane to Melbourne or something like that, or Brisbane to
Well,
Something
I'm
like
Sydney.
glad
that,
he
yeah.
was doing something useless other than just trawling around
Oh no, he
darkened
was doing it. He
alleys.
was doing it to raise money for a charity.
Okay,
Cancer,
good.
I think he lost his mum to
Yeah.
cancer recently or
Yes.
Yes.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
So it
well,
was for a good cause.
you know what, Captain Australia, if you're out there, keep doing the good work.
Yep. Well done.
He's too important and too busy to be listening to our podcast. So
Mm.
Probably.
Anyway, the definition of syphilis. I'm
Mm.
sure I'm saying that. Syphilis.
Hmm.
Feeling wistful upon brushing past a person you once shared a life with, noticing the same touch on the arm, seeing the same smile, hearing the same laugh that you used to adore, suddenly all too aware that it's no longer for you and no longer carries the meaning it once did.
My God, what is Brighton? Put this book away. I'm feeling
That
very
that that
sad.
one that one hits, especially as you get older.
My
That one hits.
God.
I
Can you
apologize.
find a happy one?
I
All
need
right,
a nap and a beer, some whiskey, cigarette.
All the alcohol
all
and
right,
some chocolate.
all right.
Mm.
I just turned to this one. Here's a gun. And another one I can't pronounce. All of these are cobbled together from Old English and Latin and French. And anyway, this is spelt Zverism. Zivarism.
Hmm.
The
It feels
wish that,
purposely problematic.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's from the it's from the Lithuanian Zevaris, which means wild beast, plus the Latin verissimus, meaning the truest, the realest.
Right.
So this is a noun. The wish that people could suspend their civility and indulge the physical side of each other first, sniffing each other's hair like dogs, staring unabashedly at interesting faces, reveling in a beautiful voice like a song on the radio.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
Yeah. They're not
I see
all.
they frequent the beat.
Is that still
Okay,
open?
yeah,
Oh,
it is.
yes.
Oh, good.
For our international listeners out there, the Beat is a very famous Brisbane bar. Particularly, it tends to be more of a queer bar, so it tends to be where like the LGBT community will congregate as of a nighttime. But it was the seminal place to go to as a teenager when we first turned 18 and we're out drinking. It's like, yeah, let's go to the Beat. And unfortunately also has a bit of a reputation for where, cover your drinks because they'll get spiked at the beat. I
I
hope
mean,
it
that
doesn't
that's good
start that way.
advice at any bar, to be honest.
It really is, but yeah,
It
like,
also has a reputation of being a very physical place, not in
yes,
a
Mm,
violent way either. So,
no,
yeah,
it was quite the place to go.
I've never
yes.
been.
Actually, I've never been either. I was so
Really?
sad story. I wasn't allowed to go out clubbing when I turned 18 because I had very overprotective parents. And by the time I was old enough to actually make my own decisions, i.e., once I moved out of home and was my own adult, none of my friends wanted to go because they were, oh, it's too old to go to the beat now. I was like, not
I
fun to go by
went
myself.
I went clubbing when I turned 18 twice and very quickly realized it was not for me.
Admittedly, I don't particularly like loud thumping music,
I
and
would
I like
I,
to have my feet feel comfortable
hmm,
rather than being on them for hours on end in high heels. So,
I would rather sit around a table sharing pizza and having conversation with friends than going out night clubbing.
I prefer a dark whiskey bar in a comfortable couch, just sipping on a really good Johnny Walker.
What drink would you have though?
When I was that age, I prefer anywhere I could
Ah,
get drunk and cheaply, preferably.
yes, thank you, Brayden.
Yes. Anyway, that is the dictionary of obscure sorrows. I promise they are not all depressing. I just happened to pick some up.
It's a beautiful
It
looking
is.
book. I feel like I need to get a version of it myself.
Mm,
May I ask how much you actually paid for it in the
it
end?
was $35.
Oh yeah, that's not too bad for a particular book. And I
No.
assume you would be you would much prefer to buy it from, let's say, an independent bookstore rather than getting it cheaply on Amazon, because
Yes.
let's not give Bezos any more of our money that he than he needs.
Yes. Well, this book is not common. So
Mm.
when I saw the my a second chance to grab it, I'm like, I'm taking it. And yeah, it's just a book you can just sit through, flick through a few pages before bed. And really, if you want a conversation starter, like pick a definition out of there and talk about it. It's a beautiful book.
Sounds like, yes, sounds like a really good book. I myself have started reading The Bookbinder of Jericho by Pip Williams. I haven't gotten very far into it. It's so far actually quite a lovely story, but I have a feeling I should have read The Dictionary of Lost Words first. So when you talked about that book, I thought, oh, that's kind of funny, because I know that The Dictionary of Lost Words is one of Pip Williams' very well-known books. It
I have
seems
read
to,
it.
have you?
Yes, I got it on. It was an Audible freebie a
Oh, nice.
couple of years ago, and I listened to it, and it was quite good. I didn't enjoy the ending,
Mm.
to be honest, but the lead up, it really like I just like the last chapter. I kind of felt was a bit rushed. Like it almost felt like she'd hit her word limit and like, oh, quick, I have to wrap this up in one chapter now.
Uh, I get the feeling that The Bookbinder of Jericho may be perhaps not a sequel, but it's within the same like universe world
It's
that
like I
the
think like a
Dictionary of
side
Lost World
side quill.
words is.
Is that a word?
Yeah, so I think it
Spin
has to
off? Is
do
that a
with
better way to say it? Just a
perhaps
spin
it's
off?
got like some characters were mentioned and then this the Bookbinder of Jericho is their story. So I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if it's really important to have read the Dictionary of Lost Words first. I'm hoping not because I'm already like 3 chapters in to the Jericho book. So I'll report back once I've finished and let everyone know what my thoughts on that one is.
Excellent.
All right. Shall we move on to tonight's main topic, unless we've got any emails or comments from
We do
anyone?
not at this stage, unfortunately.
Ah,
But
well, don't forget to write in.
feel free to write. If you want me to turn to a random page in the dictionary of obscure sorrows and read an entry, write in. What page do you want?
Not 69, we've already had that one.
Yeah, we've already had that one. And what
69 again.
we can do 69 again.
Turn to any book, like pick any book and turn to page 69 and we'll discuss it.
There you go. Yeah, but main topic today. I thought it is 2025 as you're listening to this. Do you guys have any New Year's resolutions? Do you do any of that stuff?
No.
No,
I
me either.
have I have in the past, as we are sitting here before 2025, I know one of
Hmm.
my resolutions is going to be to like be a bit more hardworking in my Irish dance practice and fitness. And I know I'll get 3 days into the new year and that will go out the window, and then I'll feel like completely disgusted with myself for the rest of the year. So,
Yep.
like, I don't know. New Year's resolutions, I think, is a bit of a it's a pressure that people put on themselves, and when you don't actually live up to those expectations, it can make you feel quite depressed. So I feel like it's not something that people should really do, because what does the arbitrary changing of the calendar mean to any kind of desire that you have? I think you can decide today's the day I'm going to do something at any point in the year. It doesn't have to be a Monday. It doesn't have to be the first of the month. It doesn't have to be the new year. So
Trouble is for me, I usually have those revelations at about 12 o'clock at night as I'm trying to get to sleep. And then by the time I wake up in the morning, the desire to completely upend my life is gone.
Mm.
It's like every day I say to myself, I'm going to go to bed early and get up at 6 o'clock in the morning so that I can do stuff. And then 6 o'clock comes and I'm like, I'm just going to lie in bed for another half hour. And then suddenly it's 9:15 and you're disgusted with yourself. So,
Brian George does a great skit about that if you have a chance
oh,
to see it.
I'll look that up. I love his stuff.
But no, I agree. Like if it's important enough for me to make a resolution about it, it's important enough for me to start it now.
Mm.
Yep, there you go.
And that's not to say that making resolutions is a bad thing. Like
Oh, no. If it
if you
works
want
for you,
to,
I have known
yeah.
people out there that have made New Year's resolutions and stuck to them and have been very successful.
Like I've done that in the past. Like I have actually made resolutions in the past to do certain things and have stuck to them, and like that was great. But I think it also does depend on where you are in your life as well,
Mm.
whether or not how much depression you're sort of feeling, a lot of other outside environmental factors as well can affect
Yes.
those types of things.
And you
So,
and you never know what the year is going to throw at you too that might
mm,
prevent you from achieving those things. And then it's hard to not beat yourself up over it when you can't achieve it due to outside factors.
yes. I will say, the resolution I will be making, admittedly, this year is to finish my 40 before 40 list. For people who've been listening along for a while, you would remember I made a 40 before 40 challenge. I didn't finish them all before I turned 40. I got about 27 done. I've achieved a couple of others since then. So there's still, I think, at least 10 left on the list to tick off. So I've decided that I will get the rest of those done before I turn 41. I've already got another one lined up for a couple of weeks, in fact, which is to do a burlesque class. So I found a 2 hour workshop that's happening mid-January and have already signed up for that one. So I'm quite excited for
They
that.
are a lot of fun. My wife did one similar a few years ago, and yeah,
Ah,
she raved about it. She said it was so much fun.
I should ask Nellie if she wants to come and do the class with me.
You should. She'd jump on it, depending
Excellent.
how
I
her.
Mel's
mean,
part Mel's part of a dance school that does all different types. So there's burlesque, there's boylesque, there's tap, there's chair dancing, and so they run terms basically, and you choose which teacher you want and which style you want, and then at the end of the term they put on a show, and everyone comes together and does their style of dance for the night.
very nice. I'm going to message
Mm,
both of your wives right now to come on a date with me then.
excellent.
Blended.
Anyway, the reason I bring this up is because at the end of the year and into the new year, if you're on the social medias or just chronically online, like a lot of us are nowadays, especially in like the booktube, book talk kind of realms, there's always a lot of the videos of going like, these are the books I read this year, and these are my reading goals for next year. And some of them are, some people have very simple, just like, I want to read more. And others are like, I'm going to read 52 books in the year. So, like, one book a week, 52 books, that is my goal. And it almost becomes, at the end of the year, it's a trend. It almost becomes more quantity over quality.
Mm.
And right throughout the year, you'll stumble across accounts of people going, these are all the books I read in July. And it's like a pile of 6 books. And
Mm.
there's me sitting here like, I finished one book in July. And I understand, like, for some of these people, they are lucky enough that this is almost their full-time job, is reading, reviewing books. And that is a lovely job to have. I would love to have that job. But for us that have just full-time jobs, like, my time to read is maybe 1 or 2 hours at night just before bed. Um, Even holidays now, my reading time has slowed down quite a bit because I'm more focused on catching up on all the TV that I've missed throughout the last few months.
There's
Um,
so much good television to watch, damn it.
I just started Squid Game season 2. Oh my God, I've only watched one episode of season 2 of Squid Game so far, but it's already blown my expectations out of the water as to what it could be. It's just so good, and you guys need to watch it.
All right.
But start with season 1. Don't skip straight to season 2. You'll miss a
I
lot of
was,
you'll miss a lot
I
of
Like my real
context.
assumed.
mom.
Julian, watch season 2, first episode of season 2 of Squid Game, and tell me if you can fill in the blanks.
I've seen the pitch meeting. I'm pretty sure I've got it locked away.
Yeah. So anyway, the thing I want to discuss is like, is there a point of quality over quantity? Like, is it better, quote unquote, better to like take your time and read like one book in 3 months as opposed to reading 12 books over that same time span? Or is it just a personal trend? Because the worrying thing I see online a lot, it almost becomes like a competition. See who
Mm.
can read the most in a certain amount of time rather than reading for enjoyment instead.
I would say that as someone who is not a very fast reader and someone who really likes to take my time with reading things and even like re like reread over particular parts just so that I've really engaged with what the text is saying. Because sometimes I don't quite get what's being said the first time I've read it through. And I don't know if that is a sign of perhaps undiagnosed ADHD or if it's just because I'm getting older and can't pay attention to things. Who knows? I hate the idea of speed reading through things because I feel like if I did that, I'm missing out on something. I'm not understanding something amount of time really see how uh did I lose you there for a second? You will
Yeah,
froze.
you did.
Okay.
I lost you just after you started talking about speed reading.
Um,
Okay, I'm
Oh,
back again.
yep,
I
you're
kept
back.
losing you. Yep. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's your end or my end.
it could be both. It keeps saying my internet connection is unstable. I
Ah,
don't know
okay.
why.
It was fine
Um,
up until that point.
yeah. Last thing I heard you say was talking about speed reading.
Okay, so I don't like the idea of speed reading because I feel like I'm going to miss the point. I'm going to miss like context, subtext, like I'm going to miss something. And when I hear about how people can say, "Oh, I've read 5 books in 3 weeks," I'm just like, how are you really like drawing out exactly what it is that you've read then? And perhaps people are able to do that. Maybe they have a talent for
Hmm.
being able to read really quickly and truly pass what's actually going on. I personally don't think I'd be able to do that, which is why I do like to take my time. That being said, I don't think spending 5 months reading a particular book when you could have been reading a lot of other books that are far more enjoyable instead, is time well spent either. So
That is my
that's.
book of 2024.
I maintain that is all on you. You could have
Yeah, I
switched up
know.
at any moment,
Yep.
I know.
but
Any other
you
classic.
decided to self-flagellate
It was
for 5 months.
it was
You
my
could
own
have
doing.
reread The Great Gatsby in a week.
Oh, I could have reread it 50,000 times.
It's a very short
Oh,
book.
side note, side story, very quickly. When I was in the Strand Bookstore in New York, there's actually a table that's filled with banned books, so books that have been banned over time. And Moby Dick was there. And now I heard this one woman was like, "Moby Dick? Why is Moby Dick here?" And I turned to her and went, "It's because of the homosexual connotations. But seriously, don't bother reading it. I took 5 months and it's awful." And then I just ran away.
I
She
mean,
appreciated
yeah,
it.
there it's hard not to read homoeroticism into that book. Maybe that's just my modern sensibilities kind of imposing onto it.
Well, if you go back and listen to our episode where we do the deep dive
Yes.
debrief on that particular episode, we spoke about how even people at the time like were arguing over whether or not that there was homosexual
Mm,
tendencies in that particular book. But
yes.
go back and listen to that episode.
Yeah.
So, Julian, your thoughts?
I think that the idea of reading quantity, there's got to be some kind of extrinsic motivation there. I don't know where a sense of self-satisfaction comes from reading 52 books in 52 weeks. And I don't know what that. I'm going to date myself hideously here. And Eloise, you may remember these. Brayton, you might be a little bit too young. But back when I was in primary school, we were taught to read quickly so that we could earn a free personal pizza
Oh,
with the
yes.
old book it competition.
The,
Yes.
yes, I remember that.
I don't
I
think
never got
my
the
school
pizza.
ever did it, but we definitely did have like daily
Mm.
reading like goals and things like that.
I feel like I only read the Babysitter's Club books at the time, and that didn't count because it's like, no, you have to read a whole bunch of different books. You can't just read the same books from the one series, which I am going to
Ah,
argue because why? Why do I have to read a whole bunch of different books when I love this particular series and I'm a child who's reading their different stories? Like, give me my damn pizza, damn it.
I think you just had a really shitty um, person seeing over your. I don't remember having
Well,
any rules like that.
I
Very
will say,
happy.
Eloise, right now, if you want to read Babysitters Club and treat yourself to a pizza, you can do that.
I can because
That's
I'm an
true.
adult
You
and I can
can,
do whatever I want.
You can do whatever you want.
but we got it for free. Damn it!
We
That was a
did.
free personal pick. But and like you mentioned, the reading goals, Brayton, and have you read this many books this year and stuff like that? I feel like there's such a push when you're younger to find extrinsic reward in reading a lot. There's prizes for, having read the most books from your school library or any of those kinds of things, or seeing your name on the leaderboard with the most amount of stickers, and then you get to, pick something from the prize books or whatever it is. And so you wonder, do like you said, do people actually take in what they're reading, or is it just a way of going, hey, I've read more books than anyone else, go me. Like if that's your thing, if your thing is speed reading, no skin off my nose. But again, Eloise, like you said, I read for enjoyment. And if that takes me 3 months to read a book, and my favorite author, Stephen King, who barely writes anything under 1,000 pages, so I'm not reading that quickly.
Mm.
So I think, yeah, I'm not a person who could pay quantity over quality. And I know I go in fits and spurts too. I will spend 3 months and not read a single book ever. And then I'll spend another 3 months where all I do once the kids are in bed or whatever, and I'm winding down, and I'll just read for 2 or 3 hours. On the weekends, I'll spend my whole day reading. It's fits and spurts for me as well. So I'm much more of a quality over quantity. I don't understand the need to get through as many books as possible
So
in
what?
a set time.
So coming from like an English teacher perspective, what's your thoughts on like assigning a kid's text to read and saying you have to have read this by a certain date? Like I know there's assessment and stuff to do that, but
Mm.
is that like the wrong approach?
I don't I don't like it. I don't like saying all of you must read this set text. Much
Mm.
like I don't like making kids write short stories for assessment either. A book is so subjective in whether or not you like it. And I think it was William Goldman, Golding, I can't remember. Anyway, the guy who wrote Lord of the Flies, um, who said, give a book 10%. And if you don't like it, move on. There's no sense in wasting time in something you don't enjoy. And so forcing kids to read a set text, there are ways to approach it as a teacher, but I don't think it's fostering any love of literature. I think we've all been there. What were you forced to study in high school that you just don't want to deal with now? For most of us, I suppose it was algebra or maths or whatever.
Mm.
Most of the people that we probably know, but forcing someone to read a book, and yeah, there are timelines that we have to stick to. There are ways around that, like audiobooks. Brayton, you listen to audiobooks to and
Yep.
from work
I
at
remember
what, one
when
and a
we
half speed?
Yep. Yeah, 1.5 to 1.8 times speed. Anything else feels slower.
Mm.
But that depends on the narrator, um, and like the density of the text, I guess, how heavy that text is, whether it's a non-fiction book or a fiction book.
Mm.
But I remember in year 8 when we read The Hobbit, and
Mm.
I loved The Hobbit. Like, it was luckily one of those books that I always very fondly remember The Hobbit and The Crucible we read in English class in high school, and I still to this day love both those texts. The
Yeah.
Crucible, I think, is still like my favorite play that I've ever read. It's just amazing. Um, but we spent probably about 2 or 3 weeks of just class time just reading The Hobbit out loud.
Mm.
And that was the only way I think the teacher could make sure that we had all read the book.
Yep.
And it was very slow going and probably very boring for some of the kids. But for me, I was already like 100 pages ahead of where we were in the class because I was already reading it at home.
And it's humiliating for some kids who aren't strong readers.
Mm.
And you've got kids who are really strong readers, but struggle to read out loud. I know a few people like that. They will read through a book in a couple of weeks easily, but you ask them to read a paragraph out loud and they just can't. They stumble, they stutter, they can't. focus properly on the
It has
words.
a lot
It's
to do with the ability to like look at what's on the page and then actually make your brain get it out your mouth. And a lot of
mm,
people struggle with that. And I've actually heard about how the ability to like read ahead before your mouth is actually saying the words is quite a rare thing to be able to do. And you can get any adult to like look at a paragraph or something and ask them, okay, now read this out, but you have to read it like with feeling and emotion and tone. And most people just can't do it. I'm happy to say that I'm the type of person that does have the ability to do it. So when I do read to my kids, I actually have the ability to immediately put on characters and voices. And I don't know how I'm doing it. I just know that I can do it. But I know that a lot of other people can't. And I've watched other adults try to read to my kids, and they struggle through picture books, which is
mm,
it's a strange thing. So I really don't like the idea of like making kids read stuff out in class. Not only that, because of the fact that it can cause a lot of anxiety with some kids,
mhm. Yep.
which then fosters a hatred of reading, and then they don't want to do it for themselves or for pleasure or in their own time. And
Uh,
I understand it's really hard for teachers, obviously, because you're trying to do something to get the kids to follow the curriculum. And when teachers' hands are tied by curriculum, that can be very difficult. So I'm not saying that's the teacher's fault or anything like that. I just think it might be something that people need to, especially teachers, need to consider when they are teaching their classes, especially English classes. Julian, I was going to ask, because I don't really know, obviously, because I don't have kids in high school yet. But for English classes, instead of set text, are there, like, does the Queensland curriculum, specifically because we're in Queensland, allow for students to be able to choose a book rather than this is the book that we all have to do together? Like, surely, is there not like a list of books of here is 50 books that you can choose
mm.
from, choose the book that you want to read and then study? Or is that too much of an impost on the teacher then having to know what the book is for like assessment and all that sort of thing?
Yes. So the big problem is, and if there was a way around it, I would love it. But particularly in senior, QCAA, which is the governing body, determines everything that senior students do in year 11 and 12. They have a list of set texts that you can read throughout 11 and 12. And while there's no specific stipulation that you must read this specific novel or everyone in the class has to read this or anything like that, to allow, and if there's a way around this, and if there's teachers listening out there and you know a way around this, please tell me, because it's something that I struggle with as well. But when you're teaching, particularly in a state school, and you've got a class of 35, 40 kids in your English class, and you've got 8 weeks to teach them how to write for this assessment piece or how to speak for this assessment piece. And you've got to go through the themes of the books. You've got to go through the ideas. You've got to go through, the history of the novel, all those kinds of things, and also teach them how to write an analytical essay or a this or a that or those things. To allow kids to have a range of texts they could choose from, how am I going to be able to teach them about the themes of the novel or talk through the themes of the novel with them in enough detail to then teach them how to write an analytical essay or whatever about those themes and how the author uses them? And that's where it all kind of falls apart. So I think you'd be asking too much of a teacher to give that freedom to their students. If there's a way around that other teachers have figured out, please tell me what that is, because allowing students to choose their own text, I think, would be a massive win
Mm.
and would allow students to feel less pressured about what they're reading and how they're reading and when and why. I have issues myself with teachers demanding you're not allowed to use an audiobook to read. You must read the print. I'm like, well, I don't agree with that. I think if a kid wants to listen to the audiobook, let them listen to the audiobook. But there is a lot of work that goes into getting a kid ready for the assessment piece. And so too much choice then I think puts too much back on the teachers. You're always going to get parents coming to you and going, well, why didn't you teach my kid enough about themes in Hamlet? Or because I was teaching this kid about Macbeth and this kid about Romeo and Juliet and Five Kids Down the Back about Othello. I didn't have time to go in depth on, you know, this particular play or whatever it might be. So that's the struggle. So we all do the one text, and some kids are going to hate it. The trick is how to get those kids into it. So
It's definitely a tough gig, unfortunately, with trying to foster love of reading in children, especially when you're at an age where it's just possibly something that doesn't interest you. And let's face it, school is like not where most kids want to be or doing the things that
no,
they're told to do. So,
no.
and like, yes, I certainly fostered my love of reading outside of school. Nothing inside of school ever actually convinced me that something was worthwhile, mainly because of the texts that know and love the Great Gatsby.
I lost you there for a second.
Oh, really?
Yep.
How
My,
much of it?
my internet is shocking tonight. You fostered your love of reading outside of school, and then something about The Great Gatsby.
Oh, okay. So you didn't miss much then. So
No,
I
it was just
fostered
a
my love.
sentence.
Yeah. I fostered my love of reading outside of school, definitely not inside of school. There was nothing really that
Mm.
inspired me from at school to actually do in terms of reading. And then Julie and I mentioned about The Great Gatsby. Boo.
I was
I
fine. I
was
was
very
fine with it.
lucky. I was very lucky as a kid. Like, there was a love of reading that was fostered before I even went to school.
Mm.
I never have a memory of no books in the house. My parents were always reading. They each owned a secondhand bookstore before I started school. My mum taught
That's
me
the
to read.
dream.
Mm.
They didn't make any money, so they had to give it up, but
Oh.
it was their dream. My mum taught me to read when I can't ever remember a time when I couldn't read.
Mm.
So I was really, really lucky in that love of reading was fostered before I even went to school, and I was never pressured to read this specific type of book. Like, I had my favorite kids' books, but my mum was never, no, you're not allowed to read that. You can only read this. I was always allowed to choose what I wanted to read. The most she might have said was, I'm not sure you'll understand that book,
Hmm.
that sort of thing. And so I was really lucky in that sense. And I was always taught to read for pleasure, not for, you know, other extrinsic values. So
Mm.
this idea of reading 52 books in a year, or Eloise, you powering through Moby Dick, is such a foreign concept to me. Because why would you do something that's made for enjoyment that is purposely angering
I
you?
I don't know, because I'm dumb.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I don't quite understand that. It's like people who only go to movies to watch movies that make you think. Like, well,
Mm.
I think enough in my professional life. I'm always thinking, I'm always making decisions, I'm always doing this or doing that.
Mm.
That's my pleasure time. I don't need to be made
Yeah.
to think. I don't need to be made to feed through something.
Because you know what? Sometimes you're in the mood for like the Shawshank Redemption. You want to feel your emotions. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you want to watch King Kong suplex Godzilla onto the Great Pyramids of Giza.
Does
Absolutely.
he do that?
Absolutely.
He
He
absolutely
does.
does.
Why have I not
It's
watched this
part of the
film
pitch
yet?
meeting. In the
Yeah.
pitch meeting, he says, "Oh, do you think this movie is going to be okay? You've got Godzilla suplexing King Kong in the pyramid, don't you? Yeah, we're fine."
Yeah, it is an absolutely
And
absurd scene, and it is probably the best scene in the whole movie.
yeah,
Oh.
and sometimes you want to watch that movie that makes you cry and just rips your soul in
Mm.
half, and sometimes you want to watch Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron racing through the desert for 2 hours, killing people.
That's
with
also a
with
great
some
movie.
guy playing a
That's just,
guitar with fire shooting out of the side
Oh
of
my
his
god,
mouth.
I can't fault that movie. Really, it's just 2 hours of perfect nonsense.
I remember watching that movie, and the second that guitar truck came on with the flamethrowers, I had the biggest smile on my face, and I don't think that left until the movie ended.
No.
And you got like the
Amazing.
opposites as well. Mel Gibson himself does like Braveheart.
Mm.
Take, for example, a brilliant, beautiful, poignant movie in which his wife is murdered and he takes revenge on the people who murdered his wife and slaughtered his village. And Braveheart is, if you ever seen it, it's a horrible factual film. It has nothing to do with
Oh
actual
yeah.
fact. But I will maintain it's a
Nothing
beautiful
about it is
movie
real.
Mm.
that is beautifully acted, beautifully filmed, and all the rest. And then there's Mad Max, which is just 2 hours of him tracking down the people who killed his wife once again,
Mm.
but very brainless and very fun
Oh
and
yeah.
lots of fast cars.
So
Yes.
do you think if you're aiming for 52 books in a year, it becomes more about just finishing the book and getting to the next one rather than taking on the book itself? Do you
It
think
feels,
that's a danger you could fall into? Not saying
I
if you
think
do
so.
that if you do that and successfully, like great, if that's your goal. But yeah, is it a danger that you might fall into that?
I think if your plan is to read, and I know we're using 52 books in a year because it's
Yeah,
just simple
that
52
was
and
just an
52.
example that I had seen floating around.
I think if your resolution or whatever you want to call it is to read so many books in such a space of time, I think the best thing you could possibly do is stop and ask yourself why. Why am I planning to read this many books in this amount of time? And if it's something that within you've got to do for whatever reason that is, yeah, go for it. But if it's just the sake of because I want to read 52 books in 52 weeks, I mean, I want to run a marathon, but I'm not going to. Like, I wouldn't get any personal
Yep.
pleasure out of that except a medal to go, look, uh, why are you doing it? Ask yourself why.
I will put the caveat that if your job is a book reviewer, then you probably should be reading that many, if not more.
If
Yeah,
you're
I
getting
feel
paid to
like,
do it, go nuts.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
read 58.
Yeah, like if your job is specifically to read books to in order to review them, then that's not a challenge. That's what you have to do to get paid.
Yeah.
Like I
I
think
know there
that's
are Yeah, I know there are book reviewers or like booktubers online where I think I saw someone like their literal weekly schedule is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is just reading.
Mm.
oh.
And that's their job for those 3 days. Then the next couple of days, like Thursday, Friday into Saturday, is making the video and then
Oh,
uploading it at the start of next week where they're reading again. So
Yeah.
they are realistically getting potentially through 300 pages a day
mm.
because that is their
Look,
job.
I don't I don't want people to think I'm against it. I mean, if you really want to do this, go for it.
Hmm.
That's your choice. It's your time. Do with it what you will. My question is why though? What enjoyment do you get from that? Um, and if that is worth it for you, if you're looking at it and going, well, this is what I will get from that, and that is worth my time, go nuts. But it might make some people reconsider and go, well, maybe I don't need to read 52 books in a year. Maybe I can just pick two or three that I know I'm going to enjoy and go
Hmm.
from there.
And I think the danger is too is if you get to the end of the year and you have fallen short, either by I think it would hurt more if you had like 51 books
Mm.
and you missed out than if you only had 25. Then like, oh well, life happens. I couldn't do it. But if you missed it by like one or two, then that's a real kick in the teeth.
And again, that
Yeah.
comes back to what we spoke about right at the beginning about making resolutions and how making a resolution and not following through with it makes you feel even worse half the time. So, yeah, I can understand you feel like perhaps you failed if you decided, I'm going to read 52 books this year and you only achieved 51. So,
Hmm.
I want to come back to like your point about quality versus quantity. And here's the thing, how do we know what quality is? Because you could perhaps like decide to take your time to read 5 books. Like like what the how do people choose the books that they've decided that they're going to read in terms of like for example the challenge
If
of
you,
52 books in a
mm,
year?
that's
How
a
do you
good
know you're
question.
not just
Hmm.
choosing a whole bunch of really short, terribly written books and then you've spent an entire year reading trash and drivel?
I think that would be a worse problem than
Hmm.
falling short of by one or two books.
Mm.
52 books of crap.
There's a good
If you
book
want to,
title.
if you want to read 52 crap stories, come and mark my English papers.
Oh, those poor students.
Oh, I hope none of your
No.
students are listening.
I hope they are.
Do better.
Pull yourself up by the bootstraps, kids.
To be fair, I had at
Oh,
least 80 odd students when I was teaching short stories. So there's still like 30 nuggets of gold in there.
okay,
I was
fair
gonna say
enough.
you hang out for the good ones.
You do. Yeah. There are some you read the first paragraph and you know this kid's an egg.
Yep.
And there are some
In
you read the
terms
first paragraph and like, oh,
in terms of part of my 40 before 40 challenge, or I should say 44-40 challenge, one of the ones on my list was to finish my to read pile, which I'm still chugging my way through. So I will say, in terms of themes for the podcast, I do uh have a resolution as well for this year to try and actually get through all of the books that were on my intended to read list. Um, and get them done before I turn 41. So I've got 5 and a bit months.
Mm.
Here's
look,
hoping. Like I
if
said, I read very slowly though. So
if they've been sitting in your pile for like 15 years and I'm going to read them one day, then maybe I understand the time limit. Yeah.
Mm.
yes. Well, look, I got what's the Game of Thrones history novel that
Fire and Blood.
Fire and Blood, the one that House of the Dragon is based
Mm.
off of. I got
Yeah.
that for Christmas in 2018, and I still haven't read it, so
I've got a copy of that too on my shelf.
My
it's sitting
question
over there
though
somewhere.
for that is how much of that, even subconsciously, is knowing how that series ended that turns you a little bit off
Mm.
Game of Thrones for a while.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe. It's also like I started putting off reading it as well because I really got into House of the Dragon and I didn't want to spoil the TV series. Like I didn't want to know what was coming. But I also know that there are like a lot of differences in the book.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know. It I've admittedly left it last on my to read pile. So we'll see when does season 3 come out? I don't know. Next year, this
It's
year?
starting filming in January, I
Oh,
think.
so it probably won't be till 26
They
now.
really
Oh,
need to
that's right. It's
film
not.
these things.
That's right. It's not till 26 because Night of the Seven Kingdoms is out next, oh, well, this year,
Mm.
25, instead.
Yeah. They really
That's
need to
right.
film these things closer together because it really kills the momentum that the
How are
Admittedly,
they
show
I
going to
builds
think,
up.
explain Stranger Things? Like those kids are now in their early 20s.
yeah, well,
Steve's, I think, 30 something.
the writers' strike had a bit to do with that,
Mm.
unfortunately, with that particular delay. But you know what? For those of you listening, we're in 2025 now. It's out this
Yep.
year. We've got answers coming very soon.
By the way, I challenge you to find Kyler from Cobra Kai what his real age is.
Who now?
Kyler in Cobra Kai, I challenge you to find what his real age is because
Hang on,
no one can agree on it.
which one's Kyla?
Kyler's the Sam's first boyfriend who's the douchebag. His dad's going to shit in his mouth if he fails geometry.
I don't, is that from season 1? I don't even
One,
remember
he's
this
in
character.
season 1, 2, and 3,
Oh
and 4.
gosh.
That guy?
Yeah.
Oh, that guy. Oh, okay.
Okay.
People thought he was like 20 something, but it turns out he played a teenager in the movie Remember the Titans, which was back in 2004, and he may have been born in like
No.
not yep. He's a teenage character in Remember the
No.
Titans. He may be as old as 45.
This,
Wow.
well,
Yeah.
Google gives his age as 34.
That's really old still to be playing
He
a
is only
teenager.
3 years younger than me.
IMDb gives his age as 23 or 24,
Oh,
I
he's one of
think.
those
And
actors
it
who's
just,
like to not know how old he is so that he can get
and
certain
yeah.
I
parts, I
mean,
think.
he's a
And now it's just a
good
thing where
mid
he won't admit
30s.
to anyone.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, to summarize, I think the main point is that we are all saying read for enjoyment first.
Hmm.
And if you happen to get through 52 books in a year, well done. But it's
Mm.
not something that you need to aim for. Or whatever challenge you want. Like if your challenge is just to read 5 books in the year, like I think that's a more reasonable one.
Hmm.
But, for enjoyment first and anything else second.
You can get one of those little lists of things, perhaps, about the types of books that you want to read this year. And it's things like read a book I've never read before, or read a book that I can read in one day, or read a
Yeah.
book that a friend recommended to me,
But
or
you know
something
what?
like
If anyone out there is trying to do a bigger challenge like the 52 books in a year or whatever, write in and let us know like what motivated you to do that because I'm really
Mm,
keen to know. And what is your strategy for getting through that?
that. And how well you're already going with it.
yeah.
Yes, because it is
And
a couple of weeks into 2025 at this point.
Yes.
like
So
I said, give a book 10%, just 10%. And if it's not grabbing you, there's no shame in moving on from it.
Yeah,
Just
I've
part
heard
ways
that
with it and
as
move on.
the like the 100-page rule. If it
There
hasn't
are some
grabbed you by
outliers,
100
yeah.
pages,
Like
um,
10% is not a hard and fast rule. I think Tomorrow When the War Began doesn't take off until about a third of the way through the book. So,
mm.
but 10% is a good.
And I've also known people that have literally given up on books like 5 pages from the end because they're like, I have had enough.
I have done
wow.
that. I have done that.
My little brain can't comprehend that. It's just like, but you got so far. You've got 5 pages left. Just
If you give up at 5 pages, that book was pissing you off long before that.
It For me, it wasn't a conscious decision. I was reading through it and I wasn't particularly enjoying it, and I put it down. And I was like, oh, I'll come back to it. But then my life didn't exactly feel worse because I never did. So I just
ah.
never went back to it.
Yeah, that's good. And sometimes it's just a book at the wrong time in your life. Like I think I might have said to you guys either privately or on the show that getting teenagers to read The Great Gatsby is the wrong thing because you cannot understand a lot of the themes and characters until you are an adult yourself and have a bit more life experience.
I think you have mentioned that,
Yeah,
yes.
I
I
think the
think,
same with Merchant of Venice.
mm, or any of
Mm.
those.
The Crucible, I think, I understand a lot of people do love it in high school, but it's a play that I think you'd find it very hard to sympathize or empathize with John Proctor if you haven't lived a little while as well.
He got done dirty.
Mm.
Oh,
All right. Well, if you
And of
would like
course, he was
to,
nothing like the real John Proctor. So
no,
no.
that's true. Yes.
Although I think was it Giles Corey was still a badass in history and in the play.
he really did die that way, but he
Yeah.
was also a real piece of shit in real life. So, yeah.
But if his last words really were more weight, like
They were.
that's a
More
great
weight.
line to go out on.
They were his real last words. That guy
They
died a
put the
badass. Yep.
more stones on him.
Yeah, no matter how much of an asshole he is, if you were there, you're like, damn, that was cool.
That's
Mm.
badass.
Yes.
All right. If you would like to write into us and let us know your thoughts on anything, please do so. You can email us at nothelpfulpod@gmail.com. You can contact us through our Facebook or Instagram. Brayton, we're on Blue Sky now, aren't
We're
we?
on Bluesky. I'm posting there a lot, usually just a lot of random thoughts that I have about different things, not just book related, just random thoughts and links and pictures and funny things. So feel free to follow us on there.
Yes.
That's kind of become the main social media thing that I use a lot now.
I believe the handles for both Instagram and Blue Sky are Not Helpful Pod.
Yep.
And Facebook is just We're Not Helpful. You can also find us on YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and follow us on whatever
Smash that
pod.
subscribe button.
What?
Smash that subscribe button.
Smash that subscribe. Smash
Smash
it
the
real
like
hard
button
until your screen
and
just shatters.
ring that bell so you're notified.
I don't
All
know.
that stuff.
Lawyer up. Delete Facebook. Wait, no, don't delete Facebook. Follow us on Facebook.
Yes, but just don't do anything else on Facebook. You don't need to.
Yeah, no, just
No
like
one's
us and
there
then log
anymore,
off and
really.
never go on again. That's fine. The number goes up. That's all we care about.
All right. Well,
And
until
once
next
again,
time.
if you want to sponsor us in any way, I will say whatever you want me to say for money.
Yeah,
He will.
he will. I've seen it before.
I have no morals when it comes to you giving me money. So,
Even just for that piece of pizza.
That's
yes,
true. We will read 5 books for a free slice of pizza.
I will. I know how much pizza costs these days.
Hmm.
That is true.
All right, until next time, I'm Eloise. That was Brayton and Julian, and we will see you and you'll hear us on the next podcast. I don't know. Bye,
Maybe,
everyone.
or maybe this is the last one.
No, it's not.
Who
Shush, don't.
knows?
Who
We don't
knows
know
You're
what the
just
anymore?
future
you're
holds.
jinxing it.
Tell us what happens in the future, everyone listening.
I want those flying cars.
March, I think.
Okay, good to know.
Mm.